Hello friend, welcome back to Acre Homestead. We are going to head to the farmer's market together. I have yet to go to the farmer's market this year, which is crazy because it is so late in the growing season, but life, and I just haven't had an opportunity. And this afternoon, I have the opportunity to go. It's not quite open yet. We have about an hour until it opens. So what I thought is I've got two kind of small kitchen projects I want to get to right now, and then I've got a couple outside chores, and then we're gonna head to the farmer's market. So the first thing I wanna do is make kind of a bulk batch of French toast, just one whole loaf of French toast. This is some homemade sandwich bread I made the other day, and it is going to go bad if I don't do something with it. So I thought I might as well get some French toast because I am inundated with eggs from the chickens, and it will be a good way to use this up. And if I'm gonna make a little bit, I might as well make the whole loaf because it needs to be used. And then I can just freeze whatever we don't end up eating today. And then I've got these garlic scapes that I wanna do something with. I harvested these yesterday and I want to process them so they don't go bad and I can use them throughout my culinary adventures. So the first thing I'm gonna do is prep this bread. I'm going to give the chickens the heel of the bread. They'll enjoy that. And then I'm just gonna slice this into some slices. This bread was made a couple days ago, and so it's not super soft anymore, and so this is the perfect application for it. And I'll give that to the chickens as well. While I'm at the cutting board, I'm going to cut the garlic scapes into some smaller pieces. I wanted to cut the bread first because the garlic scapes do taste like garlic, so I didn't want to cut the garlic scapes, then cut the bread. But we're gonna process these in the food processor, so they don't need to be in super small pieces, just size enough that the food processor can handle it. So I'm gonna set this aside now, and we're gonna make the custard for our French toast. I don't do anything fancy with my custards for French toast. I do not measure anything when it comes to this part of the French toast. I just add eggs, milk, vanilla, and I whisk that together. I save my eggshells and I give those back to the chickens. I think this is so beautiful, this really bright orange custard, the green from the garlic scapes, and homemade bread. So this bread, like I said, is a little bit dried out. So I am going to get the custard soaking in the bread, and I'm not gonna cook the French toast quite yet because it's gonna take a little bit of time for the bread to absorb this custard. Looks like I made maybe a little bit too much custard, but that's okay. Now I could do a couple different things with those garlic scapes. I could turn them into a paste and freeze them in little pucks, which is what I'm gonna do. I could freeze dry them and turn them into a powder. I have done that in the past, but I don't have enough to run my freeze dryer right now, and so I figured instead of throwing those in the freezer and dealing with them later to freeze dry, I am just gonna go ahead and process them and turn them into little garlic scape pucks, because the garlic pucks that I made with the fresh garlic is one of my absolute favorite food preservation things I've ever done. And so I figured I might as well do that with the garlic scapes because I use those pucks all the time. And I know that in the past I've been less likely to gravitate towards using garlic scape powder in my cooking. And so what I've learned is it's best once you learn your preferred food preservation method, do that because then you're gonna use whatever you preserved, and you don't wanna go through all the effort of planting, cultivating, growing, harvesting, preserving, then not to use it. But some of that just takes trial and error and figuring out what works best for you and how you like to use your food preservation in your culinary cooking. This might be the perfect amount of custard once this bread soaks the custard up. Put these 2 pieces of bread in here. That's for the chickens. I could dehydrate those ends and turn those ends into breadcrumbs, but I have enough breadcrumbs right now and I know the girls will enjoy it, so I might as well give them a fun treat. All right, so this is gonna just soak here while we deal with the garlic scapes. Let me wash my hands. I was gonna do this in the food processor, but I think I'm gonna do it in the blender because it was easier to grab. You can saute garlic scapes and use them in your cooking. I don't enjoy it that way. They do have a very strong garlic flavor, and so I prefer using it just like you would garlic in kind of smaller doses. Now, I am liberal with my garlic usage, but I don't prefer them to be whole when I eat them, but they are a delicacy, and some people love just chopping them up just like this, sauteing them and eating them. A garlic scape is the flowering head of a hardneck garlic plant. Now I'm gonna add some oil just to kind of loosen it up. I don't wanna add water. Anything I would cook these with would have oil in it in the cooking process, so I'm not worried about that. I may have needed to cut them a little bit smaller since I'm using the blender, not the food processor, but I think this will work just fine. There's a couple tablespoons of oil. This is not very many garlic scapes. This is the least amount I've ever had because I only grew soft neck varieties of garlic, and soft neck varieties do not produce garlic scapes, except my elephant garlic does. And these are garlic scapes from my elephant garlic. Food processor probably would have been a better choice since I don't have a ton in here. I want to get this into a paste. Some people make garlic scape pesto, which is another thing you can do, but again, it's way too strong of a garlic flavor for me to use in that application. Now, to make a basil pesto and add some garlic scape to it, that would be delicious. The reason I keep having to stop it and start it is because I don't have that much volume of garlic scapes. I'm used to doing this with 2 or 3 times the amount, and that's why my blender is just having a hard time trying to catch all of the, garlic scapes to get it to a nice smooth consistency. So I just turn it off, blend it, scrape it down, turn it off, blend it, scrape it down, and that worked. All right, that took longer than I was anticipating. It would have gone a lot faster if I had a little bit more in there, but it just didn't have very much to grab onto. So we're gonna now get this on this parchment paper and scoop it into about 1 tablespoon portions. Now, why would you wanna choose hard neck varieties of garlic versus soft neck varieties of garlic? Hard neck varieties produce scapes. They usually have bigger cloves but fewer cloves, and their shelf life is not as long as soft neck varieties of garlic. All the garlic that you purchase in the store are soft neck varieties of garlic because their shelf life can be up to 9 to 10 months if stored properly, and because garlic grows in the US 1 time a year, then growers can grow it, they can store it, and then they can ship it off to grocery stores and they can keep it stored while it's sitting there waiting for grocery stores to put orders in for fresh garlic. So you don't find hardneck varieties of garlic in stores because their shelf life is usually about 3 to 4 months. So that's why I only have soft neck varieties of garlic in my garden right now, because if you want to save seed garlic, it's a lot easier to save soft neck varieties without it going bad on you, just because it inherently lasts longer in your pantry. But the nice thing about hardneck varieties is you get the garlic escapes, you can get a bigger garlic flavor harvest because you can harvest these, preserve them up, and use them. And the garlic cloves are generally bigger, and so they're a little bit easier to peel the garlic cloves, which, you know, peeling garlic is not my favorite thing to do. And so there is something really appealing about having a larger clove. I think next year I'm gonna go really big on growing elephant garlic because it has a great garlic flavor. Even though elephant garlic technically is not garlic, it is in the leek family, but it tastes like garlic. But the cloves are so big and easy to peel, I think I want to do that. So I'm gonna go throw this in the freezer. Once those pucks are frozen, I will put them in a Ziploc bag, throw them in the freezer, and I'll use them like I would use any garlic. Now let's make that French toast. Who else stores your cast iron in the oven? I do. We're gonna make this French toast with this really big cast iron. I just went and grabbed some butter because I like to cook my French toast in a little bit of butter. If you want this bread recipe, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I can link it down below. It is just a classic white bread that is so easy to do and so delicious. This bread, I actually made the dough, froze the dough, and then when I wanted bread, I pulled it out and baked it. But we just never got around to eating all of it because I pulled 2 loaves out, which I should know better. That's too much for Josh and I to eat before it's gonna go bad, but it's working out in my favor because I'm gonna do some meal prep right now. So ideally I would dip this bread in this egg mixture again, but I kind of don't have space. So what I think I'm gonna do there we go. Now I have room again. Probably would have been better if I dipped it and let it soak again, but we're just going with what we got here. I'm doing this because if you've ever cut into a piece of French toast and the inside doesn't have the custard all the way seeped through, it's because it didn't soak long enough. We'll wait on that one. It is afternoon now. This farmer's market in particular that I'm going to doesn't open till 3, and it's 2:20 right now. So we're gonna have French toast for dinner, but obviously it's not dinner time and we're not gonna eat this till I get home from the farmer's market. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to cook up some breakfast sausage probably for dinner tonight as well. So we'll have French toast and sausage for dinner. These are not quite ready to flip. Shoot. I had one more garlic scape in that bag. I am going to go ahead and put this in the fridge, and next time I need a garlic flavor thing, I will just chop this up really finely and just use a little bit of it for flavoring. But I'm bummed I didn't have this in the rest of the blended paste. we now have dinner tonight basically done. And we have probably breakfast for 2 or 3 breakfasts. So I just turned the stove off. I'm gonna let this cool. We still have a little bit before the farmer's market opens. So I've got a couple little things I wanna do outside. And if this is cool enough by then I will pop this in the fridge. Once it's really cold and we have dinner tonight, whatever we don't eat, I'll put in a freezer bag and I'll throw it in the freezer. French toast freezes beautifully, it warms up beautifully. I just pop it in the microwave, but you could put it in the toaster if you are have an aversion to microwaves. Toasters work just great, or you can heat it up on the stove or in the oven if you want. Let's go outside. So what we need to do out here is feed the plants, and we need to do some maintenance on the green stalks. My goal with this green stalk was to have the petunias completely fill out this planter to where you can't see the planter at all itself. And we probably have about 2 more weeks and that will be covered. And our nasturtium one basically has reached that goal, but it does need a little bit of maintenance. This green stalk looks like it needs to be fed, so you can see a little bit of the yellowing. It is important because these are a planter and you're watering them. What happens is some of the nutrients gets washed out of the green stalk. So here is my collection of liquid fertilizers, and I've been really liking this Neptune's Harvest. This is what I started all my seedlings with. So this is what I'm gonna feed my green stalks with. It's a liquid fertilizer. So it makes it really easy to use this liquid fertilizer to supplement your green stalks nutrition. I just shake it up. And I pour maybe about a tablespoon in the top. And this stuff is stinky. I'm gonna do the same thing to both of my green bean stalks. The next thing I like to do with my petunia green stalk is deadhead. This is one of my favorite things to do, which is kind of funny because if you had told me this 15 years ago that deadheading is one of my favorite relaxing activities, I would have probably laughed in your face because it's silly. But what it does is it's forcing these plants to produce more blooms when you deadhead, and it just looks a lot nicer. What I like to do with the dead blooms is use it as mulch and living fertilizer. This is my Cosmos bed. It had a bunch of basil in it and it has some petunias, but they're being crowded out by the, what is this? I just said it, Cosmos. So I'm just kind of letting the Cosmos take over, but I'm going to take these blooms and just stuff them in this pot and use it as mulch. Now it's time to water everything. I try to feed my green stalk plants about once a week or so. Sometimes it doesn't happen, so twice a month is probably more realistically what has been happening. But I do try to keep them fed and I do try to keep them watered. I try to water them every couple days or so. I don't want to water them every day because I don't want the roots wet constantly. I do want the soil to dry out a little bit between waterings. And I have found having the green stalks up on the patio has been so great for keeping a close eye on them. I'm just so happy with how they're turning out this year, and I'm super happy with how these hanging baskets have turned out as well. Everything is taken care of. I wanted to show you two things before we head to the farmer's market because it should be open now. I just noticed this today. This is my elderberry plant and it's thriving, and look at the eucalyptus. I need to harvest this and start bringing it inside. I think if I was to pinch it earlier, it would have put off more side shoots earlier. So I'm just going to go ahead and harvest that later today and I'll bring it inside. The pansies look really good. That just looks really, really beautiful. But I noticed this. I guess I've been watering too much in one spot because this elderberry plant does not look very good compared to that one. And I can see the roots are exposed. So I need to get some potting soil and cover the poor roots. But also I don't know why these pansies aren't looking very good. I think I'll address that when I get home because I want to get to the farmer's market early, right when it opens. So let's head to the farmer's market and I'll deal with that tonight. But it's kind of weird that's happening. I went ahead and I put the French toast in the fridge so that it is going to be good while I'm gone. And you'd be proud, I brought some reusable bags. I'm not always the best about that, but when I do go to the farmer's market, I try to bring my own bags. I do not have a grocery list going into the farmer's market shopping. I want to see what they have because this is the first time I'm going. I'm sure they have more stuff than is in season that's growing, that's coming out of my garden, because my garden got put in about a month late. And besides, farmers are professionals and they can generally get stuff ready to grow and harvest before I can. So I'm just going to go and see what they have, pick up a couple things for the next few days. And then I want to get back in the habit of going to the farmer's market instead of going to the grocery store to supplement what is going to be coming out of my garden because 'tis the season. I do know I want to pick up strawberries. Strawberry season is in. Now the farmer's market we're going to today is a smaller farmer's market. My big farmer's market is in 2 towns over, not very far away. And so I can usually get my bulk strawberry order because I can't grow a year's worth of strawberries for Josh and I's consumption of fresh local strawberries. So I'm going to get some probably just to snack on at this farmer's market if they don't have bulk quantities. And then I will go to the other farmer's market this next weekend to start getting some strawberries. Normally I would have already bought strawberries, but life has been crazy and I have not. So let's go and see what we can find at the farmer's market. I am so excited to finally be heading to the farmer's market and making this part of my regular routine. It just takes kind of getting out there and doing it one time to get used to putting it back into my regular routine. And so here we are off. Like I said, there's no grocery list. This is just seeing what the farmer's market has to offer, getting out into my community and seeing what fun things we can find on this day. This farmer's market holds a really special place in my heart because when I first became a member of a farm, it's called becoming a CSA member, Community Supported Agriculture. This is where I would pick up my weekly grocery haul, and I'll actually show you the farm that I was a member of their farm at still comes to this farmer's market every week. And so this just has a really special place in my heart because this is where I would come pick up my weekly produce when I did not have my own garden. And I just got into buying local and sourcing food local whenever possible. Now I first stopped at this really cool stand. They're all homemade dog treats. And we can even find fun locally produced things for our pets at the farmer's market. So I do end up getting a couple things for the dogs here. I will show you an entire haul. Here is their contact information if you're interested in some locally made dog food treats. They're at this farmer's market every week, but I will show you a whole haul of everything I got when we get back to the house. Now this farm is a farm that just had some absolutely beautiful produce. I ended up spending some time talking to the farmer because I asked him, how in the world did you grow these huge radishes? I will show you the radishes in a bit. They were absolutely massive, and he told me kind of his farming philosophy, his farming practices, and he actually gave me the resource of where he buys his organic compost. And I looked for organic compost when I was looking for soil to put into my beds, and I could not find it. And after I talked to him, I felt silly, and I thought, oh my goodness, did I just miss it when I was researching? And I tried to find this place again after I talked to him. And they are very obscure online. And so that is one of the cool things about getting out into our local communities is we can find resources that aren't as easily findable on
the internet. So I'm going to be buying some local organic compost from where he buys it here in a little bit to supplement my garden. Now here are some locally grown garlics. I wanted to show you this because they had a ton of garlic scapes because 'tis the season for garlic scapes. So if you didn't grow any of your own garlic and you don't have any homegrown garlic scapes, this is the perfect time if you want to try them to run down to your local farmer's market and see if someone is selling them. The reason you'll probably never find them in a grocery store is because, like I mentioned earlier, hardneck garlic is the only garlic that produces scapes, and they don't have a long shelf life, and so that's why commercially grown garlic is always soft neck, which doesn't produce the scapes. But local farmers love growing hard neck varieties, and so you can usually find some garlic scapes in your local farmer's market. So here I'm looking at all the vendors. Now, when you are shopping at the farmer's market, it is good to know what grows in season. Some farmers markets are farmers markets that have very strict rules on what can be sold. And some farmers markets say you have to grow it yourself or you have to make it yourself in order to sell it, and some don't. So here I'm showing you this winter squash. Well, in my area, winter squash is not going to be ready until September. And so what that vendor had done is they went to a local produce distributor and they purchased produce, and then they are selling it at the farmer's market. Now, if you want to buy locally grown things, then it's good to know what grows in season so that you can be a educated shopper, and you know that if I am buying winter squash in June, it probably was grown last winter and it was purchased at a food distributor. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a matter of figuring out what you want to spend your dollars at, because you might be paying a premium at a farmer's market for something that you could buy at the grocery store for a cheaper price. So the best thing to do is kind of get to know what grows in your season. And then the other best thing to do is get comfortable talking to your local vendors at the farmer's market, because someone who's growing all of the things that they are selling, they are going to be super passionate about it, and they're going to tell you the ins and outs of their growing practices. And like the farmer I was talking to earlier, the first farm stand I went to, he was super passionate about it. They grew everything that they were selling, and I was able to kind of pick his brain. But the other vendor, they picked up quite a few of those produce items at a local, produce distributor. And so I don't want to pay a premium price for what I could buy at the grocery store. Nothing wrong with it. They are still, making some money at the farmer's market, but just being a wise shopper kind of helps. So this farm right here, Yakult Mountain Family Farms, this was the farm that I was a part of their CSA many, many years ago. We got some incredible things. I am so excited, and I got to talk to an amazing farmer. I found a amazing resource for organic compost. We talked about farming and gardening, and I was able to pick his brain. Those radishes that I bought, I'll show you everything when we get home that I purchased. I didn't just get produce, I got some really good yummy treats. I got inspired to come down here every week. Next week, Josh and I are going to come for a date for sure. We're going to come as a family of 3 and just mosey, my favorite thing to do. And that will be really fun, and start coming regularly. And it just was so inspiring. I was thinking about dinner party ideas, and next week we're going out of town, and I'm going to be able to come to the farmer's market, do some shopping for what I need, because I'm going to need to pick up some stuff so that I can make dinner for while we're going out of town. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make food the day before we leave, have it prepped, so that when we get there, the night that I am responsible for cooking, it is going to be really easy. So I'm really excited, I'm inspired, and let's go home so I can show you everything I got. Here is the haul. It's not super big, but I got some really fun stuff that I am probably gonna have for dinner tonight. First off, I did get some dog treats for the dogs. The The husband and wife team that do this, they make them all from scratch. This is a cheese that he makes from yak milk and cow milk. He dries it and then he turns it into a dog treat. So I got them a couple dog treats. I got Josh and I a treat, a snickerdoodle and a chocolate chip. Whichever one Josh doesn't want, I'll have the other one for dessert tonight. I will probably eat all of these for dinner tonight as well, along with some of this chips and hummus. This wife and husband couple, again, they make these chips themselves and they make the hummus. I got the chipotle black bean and the cilantro jalapeno, and this has some heat to it and it's so good. And then for dessert, maybe along with my cookies, I will have some strawberries. I will probably eat in the next couple days a few of these pints, and then the rest of them will go into the freezer. And then I got these huge radishes. So at this farm, this is the guy that I was talking to and asking him, how in the world do you grow organic radishes to be this big? That is incredible. And he was talking to me about the organic compost and where he buys it and how they can deliver it and the amendments he uses. And so I took every piece of advice he was willing to give me and I wrote it down. So I am going to be looking into that organic compost and probably be purchasing some of that. Honestly, probably not until next year. So my plants out there, I've amended them with some organic fertilizer, which is some of the stuff he actually recommended: bone meal, fish meal, all the meals, and we'll just see how they do. And then next year, I will probably top dress each one of those raised beds with a couple inches of this organic compost. And then I got 2 bottles of wine. Josh and I are normally red wine drinkers, but I got a rosé and the Sauvignon Blanc. Both of these I was able to taste. It was warm today and it's sunny, it's beautiful, it's summer. So I thought I would get these ones because they tasted really good to me when I tasted them. The red wines just felt a little heavy, probably just because I was outside. It was warm. It's actually like 72, so it's like perfect temperature out there right now. And so anyway, that's what was speaking to me, so that's what I got. So we'll probably enjoy those on the patio over the summer. And yeah, that is my haul. So I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited you hung out with me as we prepped some food. We took care of those garlic scapes. That's the first time I've ever seen garlic scapes at the farmer's market, so that was pretty cool. And we took care of the green stalks and we went shopping. It was such a fun day, such a fun afternoon. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being you, and I can't wait to see you next time. If you are interested in those green stalks, I can link them down below. Bye, friend.